Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. I'm Carl here at Carl Stacey Guitar Tuition, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the worst gig that I ever played. This is sort of a follow-up video to the video that I put out a little while ago that was titled I've played 500 gigs, here's what I've learned, okay? So like I said in that video, there's a lot of things that I have learned, some of those being amazing, incredible things, and some of those being not so amazing and not so incredible things. So let's do a little bit of a series. Let's do today what the worst gig I ever played was. And I know this was the worst gig I ever played because it's literally like ingrained into my brain. It's ingrained into my memory at this point, right? And I've played, like I say, 500 gigs. That's a lot, right? I don't remember all of them. I don't remember certain venues, certain towns, certain set lists, certain people, whatever. There's a lot of things I don't remember about places that I have traveled to and have played throughout the time that I've been playing and doing music, which if you didn't know is now 20 years. But this one particular, I'm not gonna name names or anything like that because that's not what I'm about. I'm just telling a story. I'm not here to get at anyone or poke anyone or anything like that. This was a long time ago. I'm a forgiving, forgetting person. I like to forgive, I like to forget, I like to move on and move forward. That's how I roll. But I'll tell the story. This was when I was in my very first cover band, playing 1 to 3 gigs a weekend, every single week. That's where I got most of those gigs that I was saying. A good 200-300 of those gigs was from being in a cover band and just getting my chops up in terms of performing and learning how to perform a little bit better than I had previously. I played loads of gigs up till then, but when you're gigging 1 to 3 times a week, it's way more obviously intense, so you've got to take a lot more on and think about a lot more things and do a lot more things. So anyways, I was in my first ever cover band. We were playing this pub that is fairly local to me, to be fair. It's about like 15-20 minutes away from where I lived with my parents at the time. But not that far, to be fair. Sometimes we would travel a lot further. I probably would have hated this gig a lot more if we traveled a lot further, but it's all good. And on this occasion, I was playing in a kind of a soul/funk band at the time, right? But the lineup had changed a lot in sort of recent times and recent years and things. So the current musicians in that band at the time, including myself, were much more sort of rock and heavy rock and punk adjacent musicians. That's kind of like the forte of our bread and butter and how we learn and what we kind of came up with in the music industry and in our journeys of learning and playing. So the style of the band, although it was kind of a soul kind of funk style band, the style of the band naturally just felt and sounded and came across a little bit more rocky, a little bit more kind of heavy-handed on the drums. My guitar tones were a little bit more distorted just naturally because that's how I play and that's how the other people in the band play. So the band didn't necessarily sound exactly how they sound, let's say 6 months before that, before the lineup changes and these sorts of things. So if anyone doesn't know, in a cover band you play 2 45-minute sets. So you have like a half-an-hour break in the middle. That's typically how it is, at least in England as far as I'm aware and concerned, for cover bands and tributes and things like that. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, just depending. We'd got there, set up, normal day, normal gig. We're having a good time. Everything's going well. Everything's going cool. We did our first 45-minute set, and the manager of the pub, or whoever it was, the owner, the manager, or whatever, was like, I want you to go home. We'd finished the set. So we're on our break, grabbing a drink, whatever. He was like, all right, I think you should pack up and go home. Very abrupt person, very abrupt man, possibly drunk. That's what you find a lot of the time when you're playing in cover gigs and cover bands. Unfortunately, a lot of pub owners and managers and things like that end up being very much just alcoholics, essentially, to be honest. And they don't respect musicians or people. And they're just, in my opinion, in it to have an excuse to drink and get drunk, in my opinion, all right? So that's how this situation was, setting the scene, that sort of thing. And it was like, okay, fair enough, like, I respect that. If he claimed that it wasn't what he booked, essentially, right? Like false advertising, whatever, is kind of what he was saying, what he was claiming, in that it wasn't what he booked. That's why I said about the whole backstory of the lineup change and the rocky sound of the band and things like that. But the kicker of this whole situation, and the reason why this is the worst gig I've ever played in my entire life, to get to the chase of this whole thing, is that he basically said he wasn't going to pay us, right? If anyone's been in a band, in a cover band, whatever, especially a cover band, a tribute band, you know that being paid is partially the reason that you're in that band in the first place. You're not doing covers necessarily for fun or for passion. Some people do, but working all day, every day musicians don't necessarily. They do it for the passion of playing, of performing as an art form, but not necessarily the particular songs or the set list or things like that. Although I do love playing covers. Obviously, I love being in that band. I was in the band for only 4 years. I loved it. But it's not like a passion project, let's put it that way. So as soon as we were all like, what do you mean you're not paying us? It kind of all exploded. Things got a little bit heated. A lot more kind of things were insults and kind of accusations were made like band members and things like that, which was completely uncalled for and unacceptable. Completely, there's no need to disrespect people. Like, if you want a band to stop playing, you have all due respect as the pub owner or manager to ask the band to stop playing, but you have to pay them in full. They still came there to do a job. You can't not pay them. That's a whole other ramble and rant for another video and another time, but that is the most important thing here. So long story short, we did get paid in the end, thank God. We had some people on our side that kind of convinced them, threatened them, whatever. I don't remember, it was years ago, but we ended up getting paid. It all worked out in the end, and we just obviously cut losses and never went with that person ever again, played that venue again, anything like that. But that, in a nutshell, is the worst gig I ever played. A lot of that was because of the not being paid part, but also because of the conversations that transpired in that moment. As soon as he said, oh, I'm not paying you, go home. So many things got heated and kicked off, and it was just so much so that to this day, that's why it's ingrained in my brain, right? We're going back to, like, I don't know, 2019, 2020, just before lockdown, those sorts of times, I think. Might have been 2021, but somewhere around there anyways. So what has been your worst gig you've ever played? If you are a musician, if you play in a band, things like that, I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to chat it out down below. Let me know. Otherwise, thank you for listening to my story and my rants and my rambles. I really appreciate it. I might do more videos like this in the future because I have many stories to tell, as you can probably imagine, of being in music for so long now. So maybe look forward to those. Otherwise, there's plenty of other videos on my channel, educational videos and guitar covers and things that you can check out meanwhile. Otherwise, thank you very much once again. I've been Carl here at Carl Stacey Guitar Tuition, and I'll see you in another video. Peace.